If you try to read into every little thing and find meaning in everything anyone says, you'll just drive yourself crazy. I had a friend do it once. Wasn't pretty. We talked about it for years. And not only that, but you'll likely end up believing something you shouldn't believe and thinking something you shouldn't think, or assuming something you shouldn't assume, you know?
For over 4 years now, I believe we have been completely wrong about what actually happens in Midnight Motorist, myself included. Countless different theories and speculation has been made as to what's actually going on in it. Who's the father? Who's the son? Where did he go to? What's the mount? And I believe we've been wrong almost this entire time. Well, I'm glad to say I think I've solved it. This isn't just like my interpretation of who these characters are, but I think I've found what Scott intended. Like, this is 100% what Midnight Motorist was meant to be. Rather than just telling you outright, I think I'll instead take you on the journey I took to get there. Now, it all started when I was trying to solve the whole MCI Souls in Molten Freddy / sister location timeline placement issue. See, the number 5 is a very important number in the series. You've got the 5 missing kids, you've got the 5 dead kids in FNAF 7, FNAF 2 in 1987, you've got the 5 main animatronics, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, Golden Freddy, you've got the 5 masks in the FNAF 3 ending, you've got the 5 gravestones in FNAF 6, I mean it's in the name, 5 Nights at Freddy's. 5 is a big number, so I was looking for instances of the number 5 to link it to the missing children's incident. And so I was looking at Ultimate Custom Night and looking at the intermission cutscenes, Bear of Vengeance and Toy Chica the High School Years. Now, Bear of Vengeance has 5 episodes plus a conclusion, but this is unrelated to Missing Children's Incident. But Toy Chica the High School Years has 6 episodes, then a conclusion. So I had a bit of a closer look at these episodes, and it's pretty clear that these are representing William Afton luring and killing kids. And we know that they are in chronological order because we see the animatronic parts in her school bag after she lures them away. Now, if you look at the first one, the first cutscene, you'll see that Toy Chica lures away, I think it's Freddy, by saying she needs help with her homework. Yeah, I don't think William Afton actually did that. I believe this is just like a filler episode. And then I looked at the second episode.
I told him that someone ran over his dog in front of my house. But once he's there, I'll entice him with warm cookies, lure him inside, invite him inside, and then I'll have him. And once I have him, he'll be mine forever.
This lines up pretty well with what we know from Fruity Maze, where we see William in the spring Bonnie suit lure away Susie, probably back to the safe room. And then it made me think of the Chica death voice line in Ultimate Custom Night.
I was the first. I have seen everything.
When Ultimate Custom Night came out and I heard that, I thought it was a very weird detail for Scott to include. Like, why tell us that Chica was the first? But it lines up with the Toy Chica high school year cutscenes. So if the second one represents Susie, then the first cutscene represents Charlotte, who became the puppet. And then the rest of them, the 4 following ones, are the other 4 missing children. So then I had a look at the other 4 cutscenes and take a look to the 5th one.
I told him to come over later. That should be enough. And if he doesn't show up, I'll just go to his house. And if he doesn't open the door, I'll just find a window.
I told him to come over, and if he doesn't, I'll go to his house and go to his window. Upon hearing this, I immediately thought of Midnight Motorist. But then I thought, well, it can't be. We've been sure that this is about William for over 4 years. It's definite. I mean, it's even in the name, Later That Night, obviously referring to the night Charlotte was killed. Right? Then I thought about it a bit more and decided to just recontextualize Midnight Motorist assuming that this was one of the missing children. Now, for the sake of this, I'll be calling the child Jeremy. For my reasonings why, I'll say it at the very end of the video. It's a bit unrelated, but yeah, I'll be calling the child Jeremy from now on. Here we see a story about Jeremy with really bad parents. His father is alcoholic and abuses him. We see the mother say, you know, leave him alone tonight, indicating that there are nights where he isn't left alone. Jeremy lives a pretty sad life, but he finds joy in one thing: Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. We see that he often runs off there. Now, William had planned the whole missing children's incident pretty well. He knew who his victims were going to be. So after he already had 3 locked in the safe room, the next was Jeremy. Jeremy wasn't at the pizzeria, so he went over to his house, he went over to his window, and did his signature William wave. Now, Jeremy had a rough day, as we know from what the mother says, and so of course Jeremy's gonna follow William in the Spring Bonnie suit. Spring Bonnie's probably one of his favorite characters, and to see him come to his own house, of course he's gonna follow him. And so William, or Jeremy, breaks the window and they follow back to the pizzeria. Now, at this point I was pretty convinced, but I wanted to just look a little bit deeper, so I looked a bit more into the missing children's incident itself. So I had a look at the FNAF 1 newspapers, and it said it happened at the late hours of operation, meaning it happened at night. So the title of the minigame being Later That Night still lines up. It's just, instead of referring to Charlotte's death, it's referring to the missing children's incident. Now, the Midnight Motorist arcade itself is very similar to Fruity Maze. They're right next to each other on the catalog, they have similar stats and price, and they even look similar. So it would make sense that they are both telling 2 parts of the same story. I believe that if Scott intended to make Midnight Motorist about William Afton and one of his kids running away, then he would have made it more obvious. The father would have been purple, and the house would have included elements to make it similar to the FNAF 4 house. But now onto the mound. This is still a bit confusing, it's still not entirely clear what it is, but personally I believe it's Elizabeth's grave. At this point in the timeline, it would make sense that Elizabeth is dead, and so William would want to bury her. But he also doesn't want to bring attention to what actually happened and expose the Funtime animatronics, so he would do so in an unmarked grave that is far off the road. So what do you think? Do you think I'm right? I think the reason why we haven't really found this until now is because it's not as satisfying. I remember when Pizzeria Simulator came out and I played Midnight Motorist for the first time and thinking, wow, this has so much hidden lore in it. You know, we're gonna find so much in here, we're gonna learn so much about the story and about William and the children. And then I played Fruity Maze, and I was pretty disappointed when I found out all it is just explaining how William lured one of the kids. But that's exactly what Midnight Motorist is as well. We look so deep into mini-games and voice lines and secret blueprints, all to try and find some big revelation that solves everything, but
not every story has to have significance, you know? Sometimes, sometimes a story is just a story.
Now onto why I called him Jeremy. If you don't care about any of this and you just wanted to hear me solve Midnight Motorist, then you can click off the video now. But yeah, if you want to know why I called him Jeremy, this is why. When I was looking into the whole missing children's incident stuff, I wanted to know like a little bit more about which specific child was lured when. Now we know the order that the animatronics were possessed in, or I guess the children died was Chica, then Bonnie, then Freddy, then Foxy, then Golden Freddy. We know this also thanks to Help Wanted. Now for more evidence, I looked to Fazbear Frights, and I wanted to see if the name Jeremy appears in them at all, and as far as I know, it doesn't. But the name Fritz does. Fritz is the name of a goldfish in the story Sea Bonnies. Yep, Sea Bonnies actually does solve something. So you've got this goldfish named Fritz, who then gets eaten by a sea bonnie, and itself gets turned into a sea bonnie. I think this shows that Fritz the child was killed by Spring Bonnie and then becomes himself Bonnie. I don't think Scott would have just called the goldfish Fritz for a coincidence. He named it Fritz for a reason, and I believe that's why. Now you might be saying, well, no, we know Fritz becomes Foxy because the FNAF 6 gravestones line up with the FNAF 3 masks, but I believe this is a coincidence. I think if Scott intended for them to line up, then the graves themselves, their orientation, would have matched up with the masks, and also the grave with the obscured text would have been like back behind Susie and Jeremy's grave, which is where the Golden Freddy mask is, if that's what Scott had intended. So that's it for the video. I've discovered some other stuff that we've been misinterpreting. I don't know if I'll make a video about it, if I do it or not. I might. Oh well. But hey, that's just a theory, a game theory. Goodbye.